What's up, guys? Patrick Longley here from PatrickLongleyRealty.com, and today we're going to go over the pre-foreclosure process and what that entails. Stick around to get all the details. See you on the other side. Alright guys, as promised, today we're going to go over the pre-foreclosure process. Now, a lot of people are confused on what a foreclosure is, what's the process, how do I get deals from it. So today what I'm going to do is I'm really going to explain what a foreclosure is. It's essentially a process, and the process we're going to go over today is the pre-foreclosure. So that's before the foreclosure, which is actually the sale auction date. So let's go over what happens before that date actually happens, before the home actually gets auctioned off. And that's where a lot of people think that they can get deals and get buy a house for 100 grand less than what it's actually valued at. But let's discuss what happens before it actually gets to that point, okay? So look at this beautiful chart I made here. We're gonna go over it. So the first thing that happens is you stop making your payments. So the bank basically says, hey, you gotta pay us, you owe us for that mortgage payment. So they're gonna wait a couple days, and as soon as you miss your second or third payment, you're gonna get a call from them and you're gonna get a NOD, or a notice of default. And that's gonna be a piece of paper they slap on your door. Sheriff's gonna stop by, staple it on there, and basically say, hey, you need to make your payments, otherwise we're gonna auction this place off. Now, that time in between is usually about 120 days before you actually get slapped with the notice of default. And that's gonna be put into public records, and so that everybody and their brother will know about it. More importantly, websites like Zillow or foreclosureradar.com, all these websites are gonna start spitting out to all these potential investors, hey, this property just went into notice of default, it's in pre-foreclosure, stay tuned, it might get auctioned. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of people can get a notice of default and it actually doesn't foreclose or go to auction. I mean, sometimes people just have medical issues and they get backed up on their bills, or the bank is able to negotiate, figure out how to actually catch up with those payments, and the next thing you know, they're just back into their normal mortgage payments that they had before. So you have to be careful when you see these pre-foreclosures on Zillow, that really at the end of the day, they might not actually get to sale or auction. They might have just been behind on their payments, and maybe they had medical leave or had some issues they had to attain to or what have you. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind, that sometimes those Zillow pre-foreclosures or foreclosureradar.com might be spitting out information that might not be 100% true, because it's actually not going to go to auction and actually ever be sold. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these foreclosure properties. So after the notice of default, in the next 60 to 90 days, they will set an actual date that the home will be auctioned off. And at that point, they need to either figure out a way to make those payments and come to the table, to the bank, and figure out a solution. If they cannot, the home will be auctioned. And this is essentially when it gets foreclosed on. That's when the bank has completely taken possession of the home. You no longer own the home anymore, and then they actually auction it to potential investors. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is, if it gets to this point where it's an auction, most of the time, about 99% of the time, you're gonna have to buy this all cash. And usually it's as is, with little to no disclosure statements, and basically sometimes you can't even walk into the property. So you really don't have too many rights. You don't really know what's going on with the house. You can't really do any due diligence to see if it's something you even want to deal with. You're just sitting there out in front with everybody else and starting to put out your auctioning price. And more importantly, you gotta have a suitcase full of cash to pay for it. Now, if you can get it before then, usually during the short sale, which I'll make another video about, that's when you can actually use a loan to actually purchase the home, leverage it, and possibly get yourself a deal. But during this process, the sale auction, really you're probably gonna be paying market value or a little bit more, because investors are just gonna start bidding. So that's usually how it goes. Now, at one point, if the auction happens and nobody actually ends up buying it, maybe it starts going too high, investors say, no, I'm out, I don't wanna deal with it, then it becomes a REO property, real estate owned property. And that's when the bank actually owns it outright, and they're going to hire a realtor to start to sell it to the general market, who can use loans to actually purchase it. I'm gonna make another video going over REO properties and the difference when it comes to dealing with banks compared to a normal, Joe Schmo seller, but that's for another day. So generally speaking, the foreclosure process really is a process. It's not just, oh, it's foreclosed, that's it, that's when you wanna get it. it's an entire process. And if you're gonna actually get a deal on a home, you're gonna need to get it in the pre-foreclosure process, where maybe someone gets a notice of default, you figure it out, you knock on their door and say, hey, listen, I know that you're underwater with this property and you're trying to figure out a way to come up with the money. How about I do this? Your home, you owe the bank $400,000. I will give you $400,000 and maybe $10,000 for your troubles, and you can go off on your merry way, when the home is actually worth maybe $550. So you're actually walking into equity, right? So that's when you can actually find yourself a deal, is in the pre-foreclosure process. And this is a common misconception that people make. So that's basically it for this video. I just wanted to go over generally a bird's eye view of the pre-foreclosure process and the foreclosure process in its entirety. But I'm gonna make some other smaller videos that go over short sales, and the difference between an REO property and dealing with a regular seller, and what the different strategies are when it comes to actually getting your offer accepted. So anyways, guys, that's it for now. If you have any other questions, by all means, put a comment down below, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. But again, this is Patrick Longley with PatrickLongleyRealty.com. You guys have a beautiful day. Aloha.